You're very welcome to the Irish Political Roundup with me, Roisin de Cleric.
And me, Paul Brophy. And Roisin, today we're joined by a regular contributor to this program, Patrick Murphy, who is CEO of the Ireland South and West uh, Fish Fisher Fish Producers Organisation. And he's here to give us an update on what's happening with the fisheries. And we're going to have a look at some of the some of the contents of the program for government, particularly around fisheries, which we both have a copy right here. As they say, we're like the battery, Roisin. We're ever ready.
Oh, I don't know about that. I wish I was.
Yeah. Morning, Patrick. And
Morning,
happy
lads.
to you.
Thanks very much, and a happy new year to yourselves too. And listen, thanks again for putting me on in the political roundup once again. Very nice of you to allow us to keep bringing the message out there.
And I apologise in advance. I have a very, very contrary, bossy, demanding cat that is blackmailing me for cream. So he hasn't got his way yet. So I apologise for any antics in the background.
No, I think
And I
he's
can
in
tell our
behind you
viewers
again. The door's
you should
after moving.
you can see you if you saw the other one, oh, that's that's a
Well,
very
that's
demanding.
Naomi.
Oh God, I think maybe
From
the time in
cats to
Cork.
fish. So from
Yeah,
cats
I
to
think
fish, and cats love fish.
yeah,
That's
they do.
it.
Patrick, the program for government is here and it's out, and they tell us what is happening politically from your point of view. And there's 12 points in this program for government for fisheries. So let's talk us through this. And so we've been telling the story of the fishing crisis for the last, I'd say, 14 months now here on the Irish Political Roundup. So where are we now with this draft program for government for 2025? And what is happening in the cabinet, and what do you expect to happen in this administration of Micheál Martin and Simon Harris?
Yeah, look, optimism, hope, and expectation would be the three words that I would use. And then followed by cautious, not to get overexcited, and monitoring. So basically, we worked with the different parties and gave our requests of what we were looking for. And I'm delighted to say that they adopted a lot of them. It's more or less written by us in the fishing industry, and it
Very
makes
good.
sense. But what needs to happen now, Roisin, is action. So we
Hmm.
have the will, let's have the way. Um, and optimism, as I said, is what we're looking for going forward, like because we are in trouble. And I believe, and I've said this millions of times, we have the richest fishing resources around our coastline. We have the gold mine. So if we get an opportunity to tap into that gold mine, as a lot of this says we can and should do, then I think we will revitalize and change the current trend of what's happening to our industry. And look, we keep stating these facts, but anybody that hasn't seen or watched you before needs to understand. And this is the facts. In 2004, we had 400 fishing vessels over 15 meters registered on our fleet register, right? An official document. That was our fleet. In 2024, through successive decommissionings, which is getting rid of our fleet, we're down to 150. So you can imagine now that we would be on the endangered list if we were an animal, and that's the
Yeah.
truth. So at
Oh,
least now this has finally shown that I think people are starting to understand this isn't an industry that's whinging and moaning and saying we don't have enough. What we're saying is this is an industry that's crying for help, that needs to be saved because that's where we're at. We're really, really in danger of losing our Irish seafood industry. And people might find that hard to believe, but that is the fact. So this program for government is the first time it's acknowledged it. There's some reasons that we believe this has happened, and I would credit the likes of yourselves and other people that have put the message out there that this is a reality, that the politicians started to listen when they're in their art fish, um, that they talk about it and somebody says, "Did you see this?" And I do attribute the campaign for fisheries in the European election that made a big difference to this. And look, I'm talking to the MEPs, would you believe it, on a regular basis in Europe. And in fairness to Billy Kelleher and the Fianna Fáil MEPs, they went to meet the new commissioner to bring our message directly to him again to enforce it. And got a great response. So the European Commissioner is coming to Ireland in May to the World Maritime Day, right? And that is a big achievement for any MEPs to bring the head man to your country, right? So there's an opportunity here for us in May to show, the Commissioner and the world the position we're in as an industry. There are a lot of changes coming down the track. The control and enforcement regulation is going to have a huge impact on our fishing vessels. The ATQs, the bringing in of foreign foods into our country, is going to have a massive impact on prices and the viability of our industry. Not just us, but we see in the Mercer deal the same for farming. We have to decide as a country and the people of the country whether you want to keep these industries at home. And if people say, ah, sure, you're bigging it up and you're not at all, and we keep saying this, and I'm going to stop now after these couple of comments. We've lost our sugar producing industry in our country, right? That's incredible. We see butter manufacturing plants being closed down all over the country in the last number of decades. We see our peat industry gone. We're flooding our boglands. We're changing, we're looking for environmental still targets that are going to crucify ordinary operators. We're seeing our farming numbers and people involved in the industry shrinking year on year. People are getting out of the industry. There are massive changes and challenges ahead. Once there's an acknowledgement there by this new government, and look, it's easy to see what happened, and I'm not anti anybody, but I
Mm.
am common sense. The green policies that we tried to bring into this country that were meant to save the world, right, crucified us.
Yeah.
And we the contribution that we would make to the world's carbon footprint is minuscule, but the damage of the virtual signaling is what I would have called it to the world that somebody has to do it and we have to stand in Ireland has to be a leader in this was crippling our country and will
Yeah.
continue to cripple our country if we keep those policies. Of course, we should have fairness. Of course, we should lead, but not at our detriment. So thanks again for putting me on and hit me with any questions you want.
And Patrick, the first point in the program for government around fisheries is the re-establishment of a Minister of State for Fisheries who will work closely with the Cabinet Minister, which is the new Agriculture and Marine Minister, uh, Martin Hayden. So I suppose you're hoping that the person that is appointed to it is someone that you can work with and has an interest in the area.
Yeah, and you see, we had a meeting with Minister Hayden when he was in the department, and Jennifer McNeil, who is now the Minister for Health, right? And we had a massive positive meeting with them because we told them, we said, look, this is the facts, this is the crisis we're in, and I think they were stunned, by what we were saying because they weren't getting the same information genuinely from their minister. He was telling a different story to the industry. Now, the man had a different viewpoint of what was happening in the industry, and so they heard it from both sides, and you can see the result. So, Martin Hayden, I wish him all the best as Minister for Agriculture, Food and Marine, and I hope he'll work hand in glove with the person that they choose to take over the junior minister role that we asked for. It wasn't that we felt that we needed a junior minister per se. We wanted a minister, right, that would be 100% committed to the Marine and that so that there was no distractions and that they would be able to do that and to have the backing then of the Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine. But not only that, we also want our Taoiseach to get involved because as we've spoken about, the only way that we're going to get turn things around is that we get a better share of fish in our own water. So the common fishery policy needs to be reviewed. It's up for review, and we need our country to go over and fight for our rights, not the fishermen's rights, Ireland's rights for more fish in our own waters. It's nothing more
Yeah.
complicated than that. And just to
And
explain to people, and I'm going to
yeah,
continue with this, during Brexit. We paid the biggest price. We paid
Mm.
46 million euros, which was over 25% between our last opportunities. 25%. We can't sustain that losses. It hasn't been rectified. We've paid more than anybody else. And these people are coming into our waters to catch the fish in our waters, and they're taking too much. They're taking too much, and as a result, we don't have enough. And sure, that's not right. You wouldn't see that in any country around the world where
No.
somebody comes in and takes more than the indigenous people are allowed to. That's harming the indigenous people. It's a simple message to bring to Europe regardless of historic rights.
Yeah, and because I think it's point 5 or 6 here. It says fight at EU level for common fisheries reform that ensure fairer quotas for Irish fishers and due recognition is given to the proportion of fish species caught in Irish waters. So that kind of puts it out there pretty clear that there is we are looking at a big shift in government position towards, working to getting better quotas for Irish fishermen.
Yeah. Not only that, you see, it's not that we take fish from other countries. It's that the fish that they weren't catching in our waters is going to waste.
Yeah,
Now we do swaps and trade deals with the other countries, called end of year swaps, and we get some fish back. And in fairness, we get more in value than what we give away, because they have the fish to give away. So there is a way of going to Europe and making the argument, I believe, but it's up to our politicians to do it. And it's written now in black and white.
yeah,
But they can't just go over and say we want more. It's not that simple because they'll be told, because of the quantitative voting system that's there, in other words, the majority rules, that they're going to undermine themselves and give away what they believe is their fish. We
okay,
believe the fish is genuinely is a common resource. That we will never deny that fish is a common resource because we fish in other waters and we follow the fish. But what we are saying is that the amount is disproportionate, and what you're taking is putting our fishermen out of business. And we're not trying to put them out of business in return, but we want balance and equity here. And our slogan in the Irish South and West was equal rights and equal opportunities. We've never asked for any more than that. We want to be treated as equals in Europe with our colleagues, and equal rights and access to the markets as well too. And that's all we're looking for. And we're hoping that our new political government will listen to what we're saying, and that will happen.
And Patrick, with this new program for government, and with our new government, it's not a new, it's the same government back in, but just switch tables for this. And in our last interview, you said what we need our TDs, MEPs, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, which is now Simon Harris, and our Taoiseach, all to go to Europe. And as you said a moment ago, uh, review the fisheries. Do you believe then that the government and Jennifer Carroll McNeil, when she listened to you and the shock, because she comes from a finance background, even though she's in central Dublin, she comes from a finance background. She knows about the coastal economy. She knows about how it's financially hitting our country. Do you believe now that they may have made a very conscious political decision to start valuing and sorting out the fishing crisis mess?
Yes, the simple answer is yes. I think from the conversations we had with them and the one-to-ones, you can't beat an in-person meeting because
No.
even, conversations to the side that aren't in front of the group, people can ask you questions and they can read your body, like they can read your
Yeah.
facial expressions, the tone in your voice, they can see you and like
Mm.
they know it, and they can read then the other side. And if you're being told something and you're getting information, then you go with that information. If there's no counter or no other argument or no other different point of view, so you can't be blamed for going with the one that you're
Yeah.
being given, and
Yeah.
we're giving our point of view. The difference between me and anybody else, Roisin, is that I don't care who you are. If
Yes.
you believe I'm telling lies, have a one-to-one, we'll have a conversation, we can do it in public. I have no problem. I put that offer again out to anybody. I get a lot of stick on social media for some of the comments I put up, and I get a lot of abuse for the events that we put on in Cork and raising the awareness. And we've said it's a campaign. We never said there was going to be a silver bullet. Well, we always said this was a campaign, and the campaign will continue until our fishing industry is safe. That's it. That's the campaign. And once it's safe, then we have to build on it and maximize the return from our industry. But it's not safe at the moment, and it's far, far from it. And we have to protect the stocks. We agree with the conceptions that are put into the policies, right? Or the objectives or what they're looking for because they make sense. It's the application and the way that they're implemented is the way that we have a problem with that. Like, and once the likes of Jennifer McNeil, as you said, who has a good brain, good intelligence, can see for herself, can bring that to cabinet, can see the solutions that we want to bring to the table. It's not a case that we just put our hands out in a begging bowl and say, let's throw something into the bowl there. It's very simple, as you hear the foreign NGOs say. Give a man a fish, right? You'll feed him for a day. Give him a net, you'll feed him for life, right? Well, we need to use that methodology at home, right? We need to know how valuable this resource is to our people for future generations, and it is a massive resource.
Yeah,
But we're losing it. We're losing the right to fish it. We're losing the right to manage it. We've given away the right to manage it, actually.
that's right.
We
Yes, you
need to
said
get
that.
that back.
Yeah. And I think too, it's very important that Paul and I are both based in Kilkenny. And as we said off air, maybe Patrick will put on an event for Irish Political Roundup event on here in Kilkenny to build up this awareness of our fisheries in the next coming weeks or so. Maybe you might come up and join us for that.
Yeah, look, if there's an event on, I'll come up. But I've kind of mixed news for you now, so you'll be the first to hear it. So the wind energy and the Irish fishing industry are going to be competitors, right? And in the water space, right? They're going to be competing for the right to use the seafloor and the seabed and the area around there, right? There's no doubt about that. They're coming in, they're new
Oh,
entrants.
I hate them windmills. I hate them.
But but the thing is that for me, we haven't been given the proper recognition that we have rights underwater because we can't stick a pole in the ground and say, well, this is my ground, like you can in land and claim an
Yeah.
actual, documentation that this area is mine. We seem to be told, well, it's not really yours. But, squatters would have squatters' rights. We're on the water. We have legal documentation that we have to have on board the vessels to go fishing in these areas, right? So for somebody else to come in. And there is a lot of work being put into how we can try and negotiate or trying to find a way that both people can share the ground. Now, I believe there's no sharing the ground for a lot of fishing methods. There's no way you can go into a wind farm and go towing bottom contact gear over cables. Some people say you can. I don't think you can. I think it's too dangerous or to be going too close to the cable. So that means you're being excluded. So we were always looking for recognition that we were going to be majorly affected by this. So this is a long-winded story, Roisin, but one of the companies, Statkraft, right, off the Dublin array, is putting out a wind farm out there, NISA project. And two of the people involved in that two Irish people, have gone to the companies and said, look, we need to do something here that shows what we believe needs to be done to ensure the rights of fishermen. So they put in a sustainable fisheries fund, right? A community sustainability fund, right? And SFC it's called. And that's the first time that somebody's put money up before they've come on the ground, before they've put anything into the water. They're still going through the works of applying and applications for the farms, right? And it's a case that they've put a fund together, right? Not for us, but for the industry or the coastal community that's up there to access, to put in projects. And one of them, I'm hoping, is they're going to secure a food truck, right? That will promote the fishing industry so that it will prepare and cook food and travel around and go to different events. Now, I
Hmm.
don't know how fast that's going to be put together, and it's not 100% guaranteed yet, but I've been given promises, just like the government manifesto. I think
Hmm.
that'll be huge. I think the likes of that for yourselves in Kilkenny and other places that you can build an event around that, that it won't just be giving it's only samples now. We're not going to be feeding people
No,
because
no.
I don't want to damage other people's businesses. We're not, but it will be giving out samples and free samples and promotions and telling the
Hmm.
story. And we're hoping to build on that to bring a bit of science alongside it, to
Yeah,
bring the
sounds good.
facts to the people that are there, that you could have, demonstrations. So you might take a hall for an evening, you know, give them samples of food, how it's cooked, cooking demonstrations, really build in a practical way and, you know, start small and work out big. Go to schools, go to
Hmm.
wherever you're wanted. I think it's really, really needed in Ireland
Mm.
to educate people
Hmm.
again about fish, about all aspects of the fish.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that's a project that'll be taken under the wing of the industry. So that's the good positive news. So 2025 is the year I'm starting to look forward to be honest with you. It
Yes.
after the December council in previous years, you're just coming back and you're totally deflated and you're going, my God, what are we going to do to turn this around like? So the new government, the new program for government, the likes of this working with the ORE instead of having them as a combatant, we're working together with them to see if we can manage to create a sustainable industry around the shoreline. The same with the wind. Now, that's not to say people will say to me, well, do you want wind farms outside there? To be honest, no, I don't think that
Good.
wind farms should be
No,
in the sea. I think
no.
there's plenty hilltops and mountains where, people don't go to. There isn't animals up there. It's a better use of our geographic resources. Putting them into the sea, I think, is costly, expensive. So I'm not an advocate for wind farms at sea. I don't think I ever could be, but I have to make the best of a bad situation, right? And work with them to mitigate what could be the impacts on our industry, you know? So that's clear, but it's good, it's positive. But this is the first company to do this. We have no government agencies that have really recognized the industry. Yeah, they
Wow.
call us stakeholders, they bring us in, they have a chat with us, they take the work from us, they give us jobs to do. We get no remuneration, we get no support, we get no resources. This is all free to them, you know? And I think that this is the first time now that somebody has properly recognized the industry for our rights, and it's one word, rights, um, to keep fishing in the sea and to keep doing what our previous people were doing.
So Patrick, after just that conversation, who would you credit then? Who would you give credit to for acknowledging the fishing industry and for getting the 12 points for the fisheries in the document? Is there anyone specifically within the politically who you would credit for that?
To be honest with you, it would be none of the larger political parties and it'd be none of the parties in government. If I was going to credit one individual in that area, it would be Michael Collins or West Cork TD. He is the only one in all the debates that keep mentioning fishing.
He mentioned it the other day as
Yeah.
well.
He did, yeah.
In coming into the run into the elections and the interviews he was doing, he mentioned fishing 4 times in one of his speeches, but nobody else. It's never mentioned that the art fishes or dishes, nothing, So Michael Collins would be the one person that I would say that brought it to the media's attention who's in politics. Um, Outside of that, I'd have to give the next bit of credit, and even though I'd be shot if he sees this, Brendan Byrne, my colleague in the IFPEA, deserves an awful lot of credit in this as an individual. And then it's down to ourselves, it's down to the POs, the producer organisations, Dominic Green, John Lynch, and myself, E. O'Donnell, and Brendan. We didn't give up. We had these meetings with those politicians, with Minister Hayden and Jennifer McNeil, like, they came to us. Um, uh, Manus McBoyle from Donegal, who's in Killybegs, he put on the jersey and he joined the political fray and he put himself forward for an election. He's the stevedore in Killybegs and like he's three generations of working on the pier in Killybegs and just said this has to happen. So he was a member of the Fine Gael party and he stepped up and he became a councillor and he put the pressure on within the party to speak. So these people, I hope I'm not leaving anybody out now, but they're the ones that spring to mind. All my
I
colleagues.
put you on the hop. I apologize.
No, no, no. It's good. It's good that this is, you know, recognize my uncle is grabbing stuff to get out to a football match. He was out. He was out this morning at Muscles. Fair play to him, and I don't even have time to ask him how things are outside there. But anyway, um, yeah, they're the people. But like Roisin and humming and hawing, your likes of yourselves, genuinely, the more the word got out to people, I believe that the more the political elite looked at this and said, Jesus, hang on a second, now this is starting to get traction. People are talking about this. It's been spoken of more and more. And I'm going to give you an example of that. I was listening to Red FM, and this woman came on and she was criticizing the overreaction to what the gales and the storms were and shutting things down. And, he was talking. But even with that, she did, when the commentator asked her, well, did she think anybody suffered? She mentioned the ESB and the people that, and the first line, but she mentioned fishing. I was shocked. So, for that person, and she's in the middle of the country now, she wasn't a coastal person. So that means that the message finally is getting out there, but it's not done with yet. Like
No.
we
Yeah,
still have to keep
absolutely.
talking to people and explaining this is not about fishermen. This is about every single man, woman, and child in our country. This is our resource. We're an island nation. We should be proud of our maritime heritage. Like when was the last time you heard of the monks crossing the Atlantic?
Mm.
Yeah.
The Brendan voyage. Uh, the sailing ship that sunk. It hasn't been replaced. We have to start falling in love again with who we are, genuinely, like, and claim back our identity as a people, like, and as an island nation. And anybody that comes into the country, you're more than welcome to join us, like. But we are an
Mm.
island nation. We're away from Europe. We're cut off from Europe by the UK. We have a land bridge to cross. It's time that people realized where we are, who we are, and one of the things they should be fighting for is our fishing industry. It's yours, it's ours. Do you know what I mean? It's not theirs, and we need to get some of it back.
And Patrick,
And
you also
uh,
mentioned sorry, Paul, mentioned the last time in one of our previous interviews that there's a lot that could be done even for the coastal communities as well as the fishing industry. It bring the tourists there just to see. We all love fishing, going to fishing villages, and that would also help with the local businesses in the coastal economy and the small family businesses as well.
yeah,
The men going out to fish, and then when you think about, you mentioned before that the local spa shop used to actually supply the food for the fishing trawlers, and once with all and that, so it is a domino effect that when a fisherman's quotas are down, the local economy and revenue is down.
Yeah, but Russian and the other part of that now is Spain, right? I love going to
Yeah.
Spain. But if you go to any of the coastal villages and everything, fishing is front and center. The restaurants
Yes.
and the shores are selling fish, right?
mm,
But for that, to build up that industry, what you need as well is accommodation and hotels and we started well with the Wild Atlantic Way. It's time to bring in the fishing element, and you have Dundon and Nevin and those going around the country and going to restaurants and seeing the shellfish and the food that
mm,
is there. And it's not that dear, genuinely, in comparison to, if you're going to Dublin City, you'll pay for uh, so on the coastline. But we need to have a government that sees the holistic approach here that we see, right? Just like you said, and what it will mean for our coastal communities and strengthen our coastal communities and bring people in. Like we haven't even touched the foreign markets with fisheries or our diaspora abroad that have come from rural areas. Let's be honest, a lot of the people that left come from rural areas, so they would have a link with the sea. Bring them back to that.
Yes,
Show them, we've spoken to older fishermen that can no longer fish because it's such a physical, demanding job. But you could have them ashore, you could have them
Mm.
demonstrating, we've spoken about this before, and bring fishing and educate people and back into the schools and everything else. We are so optimistic if we could get a government that could listen to us and see the visions that we have in the industry. Brendan Byrne, again, wants processing to be developed in our country. We have the raw material. We're sending away too much of that fish out of the country on the hoof, as they say. We should be processing it here. But you
Mm.
need support for that. You need backing for that. You might be running at a loss for a few years, but it will turn around once you get the marketplace and start building on that. Ergo, the truck, this is what we need to go to every town and village and city in the country, every major area, football matches, not to make profit so that people see you, they ignore you. That's, oh, it's a fish and chip truck, so there's one of them everywhere. No, no. We need to brand ourselves again
yes,
as an industry.
yeah. And who would that come under then? Because isn't Peter Burke, I get some, Paul, remind me, gentlemen, Peter
Hmm.
Burke is a new trade, and we've also
He's
got
staying
tourism added to that portfolio.
tourism, yeah, enterprise tourism, yeah. And there's trade in that as well.
Yeah, you see, now I hope that it'll be
We
appointed.
can all hope.
Hopefully.
Mm.
So now that you have a minister specifically for the marine, you see, we can go to them with what I said to you and said, listen, this is what we're planning to do. Well, this is what we're doing. Like the
Mm.
Irish South and West are going to do this, lads. I've spoken to my directors. We cannot sit still. So, but if you have a minister that this is his job, right? He then can reach out to his other ministers and say, well, this is what
Absolutely.
we're planning and that. So he would lead it, Roisin, with us. If they, you see, the thing is they have to trust us as we trust them. That new
It's a
minister needs,
two-way street.
yeah. So that what we would be hoping in industry is whatever minister is appointed from whatever part of the country he's in, he won't just meet with industry in that part of the country. He'll meet with the group of us that have formed to try and our mantrum is mantrum. I don't know, is that a proper word? Um, is that we need to save our industry. That's where
Yes,
it starts. It's not to build up our industry or make it richer. It's the
save
first
it.
is save it.
Mm.
So if they meet with us, if they sit down and talk to us now, not the department and the officials.
Mm.
Yes.
These come just like they did before the election, just like Minister Hayden did, and Jennifer Carroll McNeil did. Sit down with us. Let's
Mm.
talk about this stuff, and they'll say what's possible, what's not, where we can go. But like, of course, we want the sun, moon, and the stars because we want to build as well as save. But they can make it happen. They genuinely can. But there has to be a willingness in them, and they have to look at the gray areas, right? They have to work with us to make sure that, and have patience and have an expectation that not all will succeed, but some we expect will, and that'll make the difference.
You see, you're
And
saving the food. You're in coming and the government and politicians and the department, the minister talking directly with you to save. This is more than just saving the industry. It's saving the communities. It's saving the livelihood. It's saving the trade, and it's also keeping people within the community and saving local economy. It's such bigger than just saving the industry because it's a skill. You think the skill set that is being lost of being able to go out and fish, and it's also part of our food resource, our food chain as well.
Yeah, look, it's a complex
Yeah,
scenario now that you're outlining there, but you're right. But isn't it fantastic that if we had somebody that could spend all their time at this project, a junior
mm.
minister,
yeah.
that will bring it back to cabinet, that has a minister above him that met with us and agrees that something needs to be done, So we'll back it. And then
Yeah.
if he and our minister is convinced, then hopefully they'll take it maybe to the foreign minister and take it even to
Mm,
the Taoiseach. And that's where it's going to have to go. Look, our MEPs are on board. Definitely the Fianna Fáil MEPs under Billy Kelleher. And look, I give them a slating often enough. You've heard me slating them. But like
mm,
if they've turned, if they've changed, then the slating is over. Now it's the encouragement. Now it's the backing. Now it's the praise. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep fighting for us. That's what we've been asking for from the start. Just fight for us. If you don't win, at least you fought. At least you've done
mm.
your best for us. That's all we've ever asked up to now. I'd be a little bit more optimistic now. Would be getting results is the next part, to save our industry.
And Patrick, you said on a couple of programs that in 2004 there were 400 Irish boats, and in 2024, 20 years later, it's down to about 150. When those boats are decommissioned, all the rights go with them. So at 150, you really can't be falling below that anymore. So do you think a scheme will be put in place to kind of bring back up that fleet?
Yeah, what I'm about to say to you now, people might go take a step back and say, well, what is this guy saying here, right? So I don't believe we can sustain 150 boats in our fleet with the opportunities that we have now. That's a straight out fact. There is not enough fish being given across the board to our fishermen to make it viable for 12 months of the year. Not a hope. There's just not enough fish there at the current climate, in the set of circumstance that we're facing at the moment, right? So we're out of kilter. So either we're going to have to park up boats, either we're going to have temporary cessations, or the dreaded word, which I won't say because I want to change the word that you use, which is decommissioning, right? There should be no more decommissioning. We have a
No.
small enough fleet. But what you could do, this is what we would do if we thought we could get a minister to listen in our government. If they're going to bring in a scheme to help us, which is a temporary tie-up or set aside or mothball some of the fleet, right? Or if they have to take some of the fleet out, not decommission it. They need to buy the fleet themselves as an asset. They need to
Oh,
park up that asset and allow what's remaining then to strengthen, become viable and secure. But, and this is a huge but, if they do it as they did before, then I don't think sustaining the 100 boats will protect Ireland's fishing industry. What I think will happen is that as it grows and those people get more, it'll become more attractive for other countries to come in and buy us out. That's what I'd be afraid of. So what I would prefer to see is you get a government that uses the powers that they have, right? And take the fleet, shrink it, but hold on to what they've taken out of it and use it as a national asset, that they buy their own national asset and they park it up. And what they do with that then later on is that as the industry grows and the work that they're hoping to do and bring back more fish and strengthen us to grow, right? That they can introduce more people into the industry because they'll have the
okay,
rights. They'll have it
okay,
themselves parked up and they'll have it as a state asset to pass it
yeah.
on to the next generation. And you'll entice young people to come into the industry then. Why? Because they'll see a future. And I'll explain this, and this is really critical to what we're talking about
Mm,
here, Paul. It is so expensive now to get into the industry, right? Even though there's not a lot of money to be made in it at the moment, you still have to have the right equipment to go out there. This is what
Yeah.
I'm saying
mm,
is running it a lot.
Yeah.
So there's no young person outside of the fishing industry of probably parentage that'd be able to go into a bank, and start
Yeah.
off and say, listen, I want 2 or 3 million here for a boat that'll go off into the seas. Now they'll start off in the smaller boats if they can, but that's saturated as it is as well, like, So
mm.
to make the leap from what was there before, the the ability, right? The pathway that was there is no longer there. I don't see it because it's too expensive. I don't think anybody get into the industry in the current stage. So that
No.
means there's no new blood coming into the industry unless it's passed down through succession. And the thing is that a lot of people in the industry won't give it to their children because they don't see the future in it that they had when they went into it. All they see is torment, turmoil, And that's why people, even in tomorrow, if you put out another decommissioning scheme, people would take it, like, because they've been, their opportunities have
Mhm.
been shrunk through, not after Brexit, it was bad enough, but in the last couple of years, the stocks have been reduced, their opportunity to the stocks, because the scientific advice has said less fish, so you can't catch it. Do you know what I mean? So that's, they can't replace that. They're fishing at maximum as it is. And if there was another catastrophic fall in key fisheries, for whatever reason, like the storms that could make a difference, we don't know. And I don't think the fleet is resilient enough to stand something like that, And that's the danger. As I said, we need to save our industry because people
Yeah.
don't realize
Mm.
we could lose it, like, and very,
It's been
very quick.
erased. It's been our fishing industry has been is as you say saved. If this could be the last and final opportunity to save the fishing industry before it's completely erased.
Yeah, yeah, and it'll never be gone, Roshi. The fishing industry will never go, but Ireland could lose its fishing industry.
Yeah,
That's the distinction.
Right.
So we've seen this in the UK, right? What happened was when they joined the EEC, other countries came in and bought up the boats and the rights and then took it back to their countries. So that's what I mean by Ireland losing its
crazy.
fishing industry. It could be lost to others. There always will be
Mm.
fishing around the coastline. There will be
Yeah,
boats standing into the
the
piers.
Irish industry, the
Yeah,
Irish fishing men, the Irish coastal uh,
yeah, we
economy,
lose
the
our
Irish
resource.
fishing industry.
Yeah. And like if people say, well, he's talking nonsense, no problem. Anybody that sees this video says that Patrick Murphy's talking nonsense, come with me down to Pier any Friday and you will see it happening in front of your eyes now. So I'm not talking rubbish. I'm telling you what's happening. There is over 30 lorries of fish being filled by foreign boats into foreign trucks and shipped directly to their countries. It's happening already, right?
And too, Patrick, fish in Europe is much cheaper to buy than it is in Ireland. I mean, fish is just so expensive in Ireland, but you go to Europe and it is a natural dish, and to us, it's a luxury. Having a good quality, homegrown, locally fished and sourced fish is a luxury. It's not affordable for everybody.
Yeah, and you see, you can change that. And the way you change that is more people buying more fish. So the person dealing in the fish reduces their overheads by selling bigger quantities. It's a very simple, it's economics, right? But to have that person selling the fish needs access to that fish.
Yes.
So to have access to that fish, we need more fish. The fish is being shipped out of the countries. And if people say, oh, well, stop fishing to ship the fish out of the country, that's not the way economy works. So
No.
if you have a market and you have a market on the continent and you spent 30 years building it up, if you withdraw your product from that market, somebody else will fill it. If then at a later stage you want to get back into the market, you'll be told, sorry, we depended on you. You supplied the fish to us. And then you buggered off. You went back and gave it at home. So if something happens, so this is a process, as I said, that is multi-complex. But we need a minister that will listen to what we're saying. If he disagrees with me and he says I'm wrong, well, show me where I'm wrong. Absolutely. I'll be the first to put up my hand. But the way I see it is that we need a minister to look at all the aspects that we're talking about here and to have a minister that won't be regional. He won't be saying, well, I'm up here, I'm going to look after the boys in this area, or I'm going to be down south, or I'm going to be on the east coast. This minister has to fight for Ireland's fishing industry because it's all of us together will be stronger. But to me, it is easy, right? If there's a will, there's a way. I absolutely believe in that. Look, I started my own business. I've had a roller coaster of a ride. My young fellas have just come in the door. They're after landing more fish today, and he's running off to a football match. You can do it. He didn't decide, well, Dad, I'm going to get ready for the football match and I'm not going to go out and bring in the crop. Somebody else can do it or whatever else. No, he did the responsible thing and he's running. He's running to do it. And I'm so proud of him. But that can be done. I want the same thing done by our minister or departments and not just one department. I want tourism to thrive. I want local businesses to thrive. I
Yeah.
want our food to become cheaper. Like, This is our resource. It's off our
yeah,
shoreline. We can do with it if we get it back, if we get a fair share, we can turn it into gold, into diamonds. It's
Yes.
that simple, really and truly. You
And
know?
it also comes down to our health as well. Fish
yeah,
is detrimental to our diet and our nutrients in and affects our health. We are what we eat after all.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and no additives, no preservatives, no nothing like, you put a bit of a sauce or to me, as I said, best thing to do, buy it off the fishmongers, take it home, a bit of flour, bit of batter, straight
Mm.
into the pan or into the oven, bake it.
yeah,
Perfect. Bit of butter, like this is not a complex food. You can make it
yeah,
complex. You can make a chowder out of it. You can have your prawns. I could spend the day, but we'll get the truck. When we get the truck, we'll show people firsthand what good what you're saying is Roisin is,
mm,
is is there for all to see, like, and all fish, that people wouldn't even consider eating. A bit of plaice,
yeah,
Yeah.
bit of megrum, beautiful fish that you'd try in the continent, but you wouldn't think of trying at home here. People, and all it is just to expand people's experiences, their tastes, and everything else. And I'd explain this to people. When I grew up, there was no such thing as opening a jar and spilling out a curry into a pot and making a
No.
curry for ourselves. Never happened. You know what I mean? You wouldn't, you'd be like, what is that stuff? So, and now it's commonplace. Same with pastas and Italian food and everything else. We have to do the same and develop our taste buds again for fish, all manner, all types of fish,
yeah,
because as you said, it's good for our health. Yeah.
absolutely. And when fish comes into even to our processing plants, Patrick, it's just maybe filleted and iced, and that's it. There's no preservatives or no additives put in, so it's definitely one of the healthiest things you could eat.
Absolutely, but it needs to be fresh, Paul. We
Yeah,
need to get it faster from the boats to people to eat, and that's the truth. Um, that's the best fish you can eat. It takes a day or two for fish, for the enzymes in the fish to settle, would you believe it, before the fish. So even caught straight away, fish a day or two old. It's like meat, 28-day matured meat. So,
yeah,
but there's an optimum point, but we have boats with freezers and ice. Again, maybe that's what we could do with you as well, is bring you down and show you what
yeah.
Yeah.
goes to the modernization, the wheelhouses, the equipment that's used
Yeah,
there, and then give an actual demonstration of what it is to be a fisherman in
be-
this decade.
Yeah, I'd love
because
that. We'll
because
just get
when
him to
we
come
went
down
down
and do videography for us.
when Roisin and I went down to the Fisher Expo in University of Limerick there last March, we were like blown away by the technology down there.
Yeah.
It was
Phenomenal.
just so state of the art. It was like Starship Enterprise. So it just goes to show like that the level of, skill and technology and know-how that is required to deliver, you know, the fish that we eat on our table, is massive.
Yeah, like if you ever watch a trawling video or whatever, right? So when the net is shot, you have to unclip what's the gantry and clip on your wires and your warp to let it go out into the sea. Then you have to bring that in and put it on the winches. You have to unclip the net then again and change it over so that you can take in the fish and bring it in. And if you've seen the hydraulics and the skill set that's involved in that, people don't really realize
Yeah.
what is
Yeah,
required to be on a fishing boat, and that's just on the deck and then handling the fish and
yeah,
putting it down. Like it's a technical business. There's conveyor belts on board the boat for going through the fish and washing it and putting down into the hold, and there's certain temperatures. Like it's not as simple as people may think. You have
yeah,
everything rolled into one. You have your factory on the water, but you have to catch the fish, manage fish, bring it in. It's a very technical industry, and the people that are in it now are not what people used to refer to as before. Sure, he had to go fishing because he hadn't any academia and he couldn't be a doctor or anything else. And I'm going to say this, I'll challenge any doctor to come out onto a boat and do what a fisherman does. Do you know?
Well,
But a fisherman, genuinely,
mm,
has to act as a doctor on board a boat if somebody gets
yeah.
injured and apply
That's
medicines and
very
everything
true. Yeah,
else. And that's the facts, like. Or they'll have ED units on board, and then recovery and be able to
mm,
describe the symptoms and everything else. So not to say a fisherman is a doctor, but he
no.
certainly has to have a knowledge
yeah,
in that field. Do you know?
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
I think fishermen are underrated, and that's just
Yeah.
one area now. To be honest with you, there's
yeah.
mechanical
And
and
it
there's
is absolutely crazy that when your members are coming into shore in Castletown Bay and they're looking, oh God, well, there's an extra box here. What are we going to do? Whereas your French trawler comes in and can clean the place out. That must be absolutely, you know,
it is.
must drive your members mad.
It does drive our members mad, but at the same time, they don't blame the other fishermen. They mightn't like them, but they have the same competitive nature with their own fishermen, their next door neighbor. Like, once you go out to sea, you're all competing for the same fish. Um, but yeah, it again, this is down to what we're talking about. This is the program for government. This is whether this government and this new minister will have the desire and the 5 years and the support of government to change things around and save our industry. And that's the starting point. They have 5 years to do it, and we're hoping they'll work with us. We are flat out as it is with what we have to do, and but we'll definitely make time for this because this is the only game in time now. This is the future. This is
And
the
Patrick, we talk about buying from our fishmongers, but many women go in, or many men, many customers go in, and sometimes buying fish, as we did when you came up to Kilkenny, part of your campaign, and we were filming that. That the fish in the fishmongers is actually from Denmark or from somewhere outside Ireland. So it's important too to get that with maybe Minister Peter Burke is having fishmongers buying fish from Ireland from direct source.
Yeah, but they do, Jocelyn. But that or Jocelyn, Roisin. So that's not the problem, as the
No,
fishmonger would tell you. Yeah, he can't get the fish.
that's what I'm saying. He can't get them, so
Yeah.
it has to
So
be where there is a direct line and a link where they can buy
no, we need more
directly.
fish. No, you see, this is what I'm saying. You see, we have so little fish and it's reducing year in, year out. The people that we're supplying the fish to for the last number of years, if we drop the supply, they'll replace that with somebody else. So you see, they have to look after the markets that will take the volume and the bulk from them. And unfortunately, that's in Europe, right? So there's
Right.
very less spillover back into Ireland because that hasn't been built up and developed. It's unstable. We need a population that will put it into the dietary basket every week so that there's a build-up of the market and it's sustainable. So then you can be sure that, well, look, if I don't give it to the people in Europe, right, I'm okay here. This is the stronger market. This is what needs to be understood. Like, you
But
can't,
we
well,
need to
like,
know if we're buying Irish fish
on
and
a regular
supporting
basis.
Irish fishermen, or if we're supporting European fishermen. And this isn't being racist or anything, but it's like that in the 80s, guaranteed Irish. We need to know as consumers, are we supporting our Irish fishermen? So how would that, do you see that campaign apart from your fish truck? How do we get that campaign of buying and supporting Irish fishermen?
Back to the truck rushing.
Yeah,
You see people go in and they read the labels, and if the label isn't quite honest, you know, then they may think they're buying it, or the flag could be on it, and they say, well, this is Irish, and not necessarily so.
yeah,
So if you come to the truck, you'll see the native species that we have, and the biggest one of them is nephrops. It's prawns. So I think I said this before. We had German friends, and I told them, the best fish you can buy inside the mug, it's dear, but it is worth the money. It's a delicacy. It's not a delicacy. The taste is just fantastic. It beats them all. There's no rub. It's beautiful. And they said, "Oh, no, no, we bought them before." And sure, they came out like soft and pasty. The reason being is that they cooked them too much. They left them inside in the water too long, and it overcooked the fish. It's like any thing that you cook. Like, there's a certain time, same with chicken or anything else. Anything you cook, there's a time on it. Same as baking a cake. Fish is no different. You have to learn how to treat the fish, prepare the fish, cook the fish. And that knowledge, I don't think, is there yet.
yeah.
People have in certain, like, as I said, the simplest way is batter it into the frying pan, becomes golden, out you go and eat it, into the oven, bake it, for 20 minutes. You can't overcook it because the juice is sealed inside it, especially with tin foil. You bring it out after 20 minutes and perfectly cooked. Like you can cook fish in 4 to 5 minutes, and it's cooked. And remember, somebody says, "Oh, it might be cooked." People eat fish raw, sushi. So, but you have smoked salmon. It's just smoked with smoke, and it's cooked. So it depends on how it's prepared. But it's the same thing. I believe the demonstrations that'll go around will show people, ordinary people, because they'll come up firsthand and they'll see it. It won't be on a television screen or somebody else telling them. They'll see the process themselves in front of their eyes.
Mhm.
It'll be like going to a cookery class.
Yeah.
This is what I'm hoping that people will see and see everything being prepared and filleted alongside, and they'll see the whole process. Do you know what I mean? And how food is prepared and the different things. That's my vision of what it'll
But
be.
how do we know when we're going into the shop that we're supporting Irish
Ask.
fishermen?
Ask.
Ask
That's
them.
the fishmonger. So a fishmonger is as qualified and should be as qualified as a butcher on the butcher counter. It is a profession, it is a trade. They have to know their stuff. They know what's in front of them. They should know how to handle it, how to keep it iced, how to keep the temperature down, how to fillet it, how to prepare it. As again, you go to Spain and you'll see them and the
Mm.
different knives and the equipment, and like it's a pure skill set. Like it's the same at home. Our fishmongers are highly trained, they're ready for the job, but they'll have the knowledge. So you ask them. And if he splutters or the things, then he's not. So it's up to yourself to make a judgment call in that. But a good fishmonger will be able to tell you, and there's plenty companies out there. What I'm asking for is that if we can build and develop it, there should be a fish shop in every major town in the country,
Yeah.
without
In the
question.
high street. In the high
The high
street as
streets,
well.
absolutely. But they won't stay there unless people go into them regularly. It's
Mhm.
not like Asher Isle of Fish. You can look. How many times do you eat chicken? Anybody watching this, do your own research. Think about what you ate in the last 2 weeks. Write down what you had, if you can remember, right? And see how many times fish is on the menu. The only way
Good
that you're
point.
going to get good fresh fish on a regular basis is if you buy it regularly. If you can build up a business for the person inside in your town to be able to supply you with that food. Do you
And it
know?
has to be affordable. The fish has to be affordable as
More
well.
people, the more people going into that fishmonger, the bigger he'll build up his business, the more competitive he'll become. Why? Because he's after raising a flag that this is a good business. You might see another fishmonger opening up down the street if he's not competitive. If he's not giving good value for money and somebody else looks at him and says, "Do you know, he's overpricing there, he's making too much of a margin." Competition will start. Somebody else will move into that space. So it'll regulate itself. The thing is, you want the fish to be at a reasonable price coming in his door or her door first. That won't happen unless there's a volume there to back that up.
And that's where this program for government comes into effect.
Yeah. So again, this is just a practical. If you have 100 boxes of fish and you're selling 90 of them out into the continent, like I said, and they want 90 boxes, and some week they'd say, "Look, we want 95." Well, then he's going to look after that rather than say to the fishmonger, "Well, you want an extra five this month, and I'll leave down the guy in Europe." Most of our fish, unfortunately, is being exported.
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
have to look after your markets. It's the same in anything. So to change that around, we need to start now with the new minister, with the public, with the people, and get them to understand that the resource around their island is theirs. You get, like you said, cheaper fish, better food, better quality, not processed, and the more you eat it, the cheaper it will become, in my view, because the bigger the marketplace you'll build up, the more margin he can take over 10 boxes rather than trying to make his profit out of one. It's that simple. And people say that's a lot of fish. It's not. 10 boxes of fish is very little.
Mhm.
It's nothing if you've a town going in. It's very, very little. Like if you eat a bit of fish, and fish is filling, fish is nutritious.
Yes,
Like
beautiful.
think of it, the
Yeah.
last time that you enjoyed a bit of fish and you're going, "God, that was lovely." Well, repeat.
My daughter cooked it for me, and she cooked
Yeah.
it within 15 minutes.
Yeah, there
And
you
it was
go.
the
So
nicest dinner I had. It was
yeah.
just salmon and potatoes and peas. Of course, I had to do the Irish thing, put the butter on my potatoes.
All right, too.
No harm in that.
Yeah.
No, lads, is there any other questions you want? Because I'm rambling.
No, that's it.
No,
Patrick, and I thought it was an amazing, very informative interview, and thank you so much for that, and for with getting and helping us get the message out to the public in any way that we can. So yeah, we'd like to thank you, Patrick Murphy, the CEO of Southwest Irish Fisheries Productions, for joining us today to talk about the fisheries and the draft program for government in 2025. So, and hopefully now we have a minister for the Marines, and now hopefully we'll in weeks to come, before the 5th of February, we will have word of who the junior minister is.
Yeah,
exactly.
and we're looking forward to meeting him sooner rather than later. We maybe this
Absolutely.
minister might surprise us all and meet with the industry before he meets with his department, because he can
It's,
meet them every day of the week.
yeah.
Whereas with us, we would like to get the opportunity to have a chat and just introduce each other to each other, and show them that we're willing to put the shoulder to the wheel with him and help him or her in every which way that we can.
Well, as they say, Patrick, politics starts in the local communities. Politics is about people, and politics starts in the local communities to then be the regional, the county, regional, and national and international, and it all
Yeah.
starts with people and ends with people, and that's what we need to go back to: is politics being about listening and working for the people.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. Thanks.
Patrick Murphy, thank you so much indeed for
Thank
taking
you,
the
Patrick.
time to talk to Paul and I on the Irish Political Roundup.